We are just hours away from the moment Susan Smith has been waiting for 30 years. For the first time since she was convicted of strapping her two little boys into the backseat of her car and rolling that car into a lake, killing them. She's going to appear before a parole board. Our Brian Entin went to South Carolina for that hearing, and he's been speaking with a lot of people directly connected to the case, people who had a personal stake in whether or not she is released, and he's live with me now. Brian, I am so haunted by this story. I have never forgotten it. I have been waiting 30 years for this moment. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the community reaction, how people feel there.
Yeah, I mean, I think around the nation, people have been haunted and no one forgets the story. But when you come here to South Carolina, it's next level. I mean, everybody lived it here and was just terrorized by it and has tried to put it out of their mind. And now here it is again. And the parole hearing is happening. It's tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., where I am in Columbia, South Carolina. 400 people, Ashleigh, have written letters to this parole board saying, please do not let this woman out. Whatever you do, do not let this woman out.
Do we know if anybody has written letters saying it's time to show leniency? Do we know if people are showing up on her behalf? Like, what's on the other side of the ledger?
Well, I'm told that 5 or 6 people have written letters saying that she deserves a second chance after 30 years. She will get to speak tomorrow, which is going to be very interesting. You're going to want to hear that tomorrow night because we haven't really heard her talk besides some jail phone calls that we've heard over the years. She's going to come into the hearing via Zoom and be able to address the parole board. So we'll see what she says tomorrow.
How does it work? Like, just walk me through the actual process of the hearing.
Yeah, so 9 a.m., it's at the parole board building, which is right here in Columbia. They do other cases too, so it's not just going to be hers, so we don't know exactly what order it's going to be in. But it's a media circus right now. I mean, there's media from all over the place. We have to get there at 6:30 in the morning to get a parking place. And the whole thing is very, very planned. There's a whole document that they've released about where the media will go. We know that her ex-husband will be there with his family. It's obviously going to be extremely emotional for him. Let's not forget, he wanted her to face death back then. He's going to be there. The prosecutor who tried the case is going to be there. And imagine they're going to have to sit there when she comes in on Zoom and tries to plead her case.
And David is remarried now. It'll be fascinating to hear what he says. He has made no bones about it. He wants her to stay behind bars. Talk to me about the actual prosecutor in the case who put her away. He was devastated that she didn't get the death penalty.
Yeah, he was. You know, he wanted death. I interviewed him today. He's now a state representative. He was 32 years old at the time, a young prosecutor. And it was this small town. I mean, Union was is a small place in South Carolina. Everybody knows everybody. The police chief's wife was on the jury. She was from a well-known, sort of well-to-do family. And the concern was that if they put the death penalty on the table, people knew her family well, they knew her mother well. Would the jury at the end of the day actually be able to sentence her to death, having known the family so well? But the prosecutors, he's been torn up about it. This is a little bit of what he told me today, Ash. One of the top questions that I've gotten is, how did she not get the death penalty?
Well, I give credit to the defense and the way they handled the case. One thing is, we picked the jury there in Union, which is a small mill town where everyone knows everyone. I mean, I thought I had a good chance. I had the police chief's wife was even on my jury, you know. But it's a small community. You figure one thing was they would see the mother and see others, you know, the jurors would interact. So I think it was smart on the defense standpoint to not want to change venue. It's awkward as the elected prosecutor because if I ask for a change of venue, I'm basically saying the people that elected me can't be fair and impartial. So that's really not practical that I would ask for a change of venue. I think the other thing is, so the crime happened around October, and we were ready to try it maybe January or February, and the defense said they needed more time. And looking back, what I think they did well was they worked the public opinion, i.e. the jury pool, and it kind of transformed from Susan Susan the monster to Susan the victim. When I get down to Union, I go out to the lake and I see the boys pulled out of the lake. The divers found the car. The wrecker pulls it out. Two children strapped in car seats that, obviously had been there for 9 days. I then go to where the law enforcement, and it was Sheriff Wells, an FBI agent, and a SLED agent. And Sheriff Wells, ironically, the sheriff in Union, was also Susan Smith's godfather, which I'll give credit, maybe in part, helped with the confession part. But I went and I said, "Can I see the confession?" They said, "Oh, she's much too upset to put anything in writing." I said, "Guys, I'm gonna have to try this case. I need to have something." They gave her a legal pad, and I ended up with the quote confession that says, "It's the worst day of my life. Somebody I loved didn't love me. I sunk to my lowest when I let the car roll down the ramp without me." That leaves out a lot of detail. So we ultimately did the testing of the vehicles to determine how long did it float. How did she have options?
I can't talk over him.
And sorry, go ahead, Ash.
I want to talk over you, but I wanted to ask you something that he says he goes out to the lake, and I understand that there's that shrine there. And while that has never changed, something has changed. The laws about life with no parole, that has changed since Susan Smith. If she had been charged with this, with today's laws, it actually means she would not be getting this opportunity tomorrow. Can you explain that?
That's right. I mean, they changed the law in South Carolina. So today, if you got life, you would get life. You would have no option for parole. But that wasn't the case in 1995. And that's why after 30 years, you get to have this hearing. And she can have another hearing again. This isn't the end. Years from now, she'll be eligible for another hearing. I want to tell you something, one last thing the prosecutor told me, though, Ashley, that still sticks with me tonight. He said that before she confessed, when she was giving her stories of what happened to them, that she said that the boys, that one of them, the older one, was yelling, "Mommy, mommy, mommy," when she said the carjackers took them away. And that prosecutor believes that some of that story was true. He believes that as they were going down in the water, and that video you played is the water rising up, he believes that the boys were screaming out for their mother at that time, and that she just stood there and watched the car sink.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.